Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Not Minding My Own Business. I'm your estate planning and elder law attorney, Russell Farbiars, and I am joined here today by Dave Hershey, who I like to refer to as Mr. Why I'm Missing. Um, but he is uh, uh, also here on behalf of Berkshire Health Center. So welcome, Dave.
Hello.
So Dave, tell me a little bit about Berkshire Health System and what you do for them.
So it's actually Berks Community Health Center. So I know in case my boss ever listens, I need to make
Yeah,
sure I get it right. I don't want to get in trouble.
yeah.
But yeah, Berks Community Health Center, or BCHC for short, is a federally qualified health center, FQHC. There's a lot of acronyms,
Yeah.
with four locations in the city of Reading, and we provide healthcare to anybody, but generally the underserved population in the city. And my role, though, I am not a healthcare person. I work in the donor relations side, working to fundraise money, and I can go into the details of kind of how some of that works if necessary. But yeah, I work in fundraising there. So
Well, that's got to be interesting. You got to meet a lot of people. What sort of fundraising work do you do specifically?
sure. So we get money. So we get my boss does a lot of grants. So we get grants from the federal government, like a lot of other FQHCs do. We get grants from the Pennsylvania Department of Health. We are overseen by it's HRSA, the Health Resources Services Administration. And then we also, some of our patients do have insurance and are able to pay. But then I kind of fundraise the other, I guess if you want to cut it into thirds, I fundraise the other third. So our patients, depending on their income, they are charged on a sliding fee scale. Some of them, I think about 75% of our patients are either at the federal poverty line or below. And then another 15% or so are just above that. So they all qualify for the sliding fee. So then my fundraising is basically, and I just started in March, but really working for sponsorships for our big event we have once a year. And then also reaching out to past donors, board members, people that have given in the past, to try to encourage them to give again. And then also making connections with potential new donors to get them on board so that they will give. So at this point, I'm just doing a lot of trying to make connections and meet people just to get them, because I've noticed a lot of people are not even aware of BCHC. I know I wasn't before I started. So kind of laying the groundwork for future giving.
And that makes sense. And I think that, generally I was aware that there was a health center in the city, but I was not specifically aware
Right.
of BCHC. How long has BCHC been around?
We started in 2012. I read it up on some of the history. So it looks like there were a number of different studies by, I think the United Way did one, Berks Community Foundation did one. And the result of a lot of these studies was that Reading, Berks County was a prime location for a federally qualified health center, with so many of the people in the city not having access to healthcare, or not being able to pay for healthcare. So we opened our first location in 2012, and that's at 838 Penn Street, which is right down. I work at 645 Penn Street in the administrative office.
Mhm.
And then 838 was our first location. And then in the last 10 years, we've expanded to a site at Oakbrook over by like Berks Catholic area, Oakbrook housing area. Second Street, we have a location which is in the Opportunity House. And then our biggest location is Rockland. It used to be a giant grocery store over there by Albright College.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the biggest one. And then this year, just since I started, we've also inaugurated, I guess maybe that's the right word, a mobile unit that is starting to get out into maybe the farther reaches of Berks County and bring the same healthcare to outside the city of Reading.
So does BH
BCHC.
BCHC?
It's fine.
I haven't had enough coffee yet today to get all the acronyms, but it is healthcare, so there are of course acronyms. Uh,
Yes.
it is it a is it acute care or is it preventative care? Is it both?
Um, the goal and the mission is I think a lot of preventative care. It seems like, and I've learned, I feel like I've learned so much in the last 9 months. But yeah, basically we offer comprehensive care, primary care, and I think a lot of the goal is to help people understand that, first of all, going to a primary care physician before you're sick is a good thing, and then also offering an option so that when people are sick, they don't need to go to whether it's urgent care or the emergency room, but they have a doctor they can call. So we started with that primary care and have expanded to other services kind of as needs dictate. So I guess there's a lot of people with diabetes in Reading. So we've added podiatry over the years. We have dental is a big thing that we've added. We have optometry, OBGYN services, and pediatrics. So we have a nutritionist, social worker. So we've kind of expanded based on the identified needs in the patient population.
Well, that's good because it's not because that way you're able to mold your services to what people really need. Now, tell me a little bit more about this mobile unit. What does it have on it? Is it is it for primary care or is it for specific initiatives or how is it
Right.
used?
So there are, I believe, if I recall correctly, 3 potential treatment rooms in the mobile unit. There's a dental chair, and then there's 2 rooms for just basic primary care. So it's used really to, how's the best way of putting it? We're trying to find places that people will be able to make appointments ahead of time. So we're not just going to show up somewhere one day and be like, hey, we're here. But they're trying to promote it. I know we've had a lot of conversations with other nonprofits like Helping Harvest because they go around and do their mobile food banks. So trying to find places where we can promote it in advance. So people who, again, may not have a primary care doctor or regularly go can make an appointment. So we've been to, I think the first place we went was the LGBTQ Center in Reading. If I recall the schedule correctly, like Friend Inc., I think is in Kutztown.
Mhm.
And I know they're also planning to offer, I think, COVID vaccines and flu vaccines, just other ways to get people to come out. Because I think right now the big challenge is just that advertising promotional piece of making people aware that this is a service that they can use. And then, of course, I guess in theory, if as we get on a regular schedule, if people come there in January of 2023 or whenever, they'll know that they can come again when we get back to their same area in the future. So,
Right, nice. And you said so the funding is primarily through the federal government. Is it through Medicaid or is it a different program?
the funding comes there. I think it's like a 303 grant. I forget what the number of grant is, but there's
Okay.
a specific grant that goes to federally qualified health centers. And there are other, I mean, I've done research. There's ones in like Chester County, Lancaster County. They all have kind of different names. So that big grant comes from there. And then the grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Health is a different number grant. And again, I apologize to Debbie, my boss, if she's listening. I'm getting the grants wrong. But as far as Medicare and Medicaid, that's I think the insurance side. And I know we have a community outreach team of 3 women who make it a regular basis to go into the city of Reading and help people, especially this time of year. They've been out trying to help people sign up for health insurance. So
Okay.
I think the health insurance side is a different, kind of a different side of things. So my understanding is if people have insurance, like any other medical provider will charge the insurance, but then the grant funding and the finance and the fundraising I do just helps the people that even can't pay, whether it's the co-pays or things that aren't covered or all the other funding that kind of goes along with it. So I guess it's worth, I don't know if I've said this yet,
Mhm.
but if someone, even if they go with the sliding fee and it's $40 or $100 or whatever the charge is, if someone can't pay that, we still treat them. We never turn anybody away. And that's where the funding comes from the fundraising side. It's a
And
lot of numbers and yeah, it's
yeah,
a lot for me to get my head around. I'm still
yeah.
learning.
Now you mentioned that there's a big event that you're looking for sponsorship for. So tell me a little bit about what this big event is that's coming up.
Sure. The event is called Picture Berks Healthy. We had it I think this will be the 4th year. So when I first started, I started in April, or I guess the very end of March this past year, and the event was scheduled for June. So basically, the first thing I did, I got thrown into like recruiting sponsors and trying to get this event going. A lot of the stuff that we planned for 2022 were things that were planned for 2020. So our honoree was the same person. She was going to be honored in 2020. She got honored in 2022. So a lot of that just ended up rolling over because they didn't obviously have the event in 2020. But then before 2022, the event was usually held in the spring. So this year in 2023, we're going to be having it in March. So I've been joking with people that it's kind of ironic that this event will have happened twice before I've worked here for a year. So Picture Berks, so Picture Berks Healthy, really the goal is to raise awareness of what we're doing in the community, to raise funds. It happens at the DoubleTree on a Monday night. So it's Monday, March 20th this coming year. We also bring in sort of an art component to kind of emphasize the, maybe you could say, holistic nature of healthcare, that there's more to being healthy than just the medical side, as important as that is. So we do stuff with the Goggle Works. Some of our sponsorships are able to fund some workshops at the Goggle Works. So the businesses will do their sponsorship, and then other nonprofit community organizations, like I'm trying to remember who did it this past year. Like Olivet Boys and Girls Club might be able to send a group of kids to Goggle Works for like a glass blowing workshop. And then the piece of art that is created at that workshop will be on display at our event. So that side of it's really cool to see the partnership between like us and Goggle Works and other organizations in the community. But all of that said, the goal is, again, to raise awareness of what we do, and also, of course, to raise funds for what we do. So.
Nice. And if someone wanted to get tickets or get more involved, how would they do that?
They could contact me. I could point them in the right direction. But all the information is on the BCHC website.
Very nice.
And off the top of my head, I was gonna get the website wrong if I say it, because I always I always get it wrong, so I don't want to say it right there. But yeah.
It's BerksCHC.net.
.net, yeah. I always get it wrong because between .net and .org, whatever I say, I always think I'm saying the wrong thing. But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you go to the website, if you go to our events, there's a page for Picture Berks Healthy. You can get tickets online. You can get a hold of me for sponsorships. Yeah, all the information should be there. So
wonderful. And are there other events that you do throughout the year to raise awareness or raise funds for the organization?
The other, I guess, big event we do happens in August during National Health Center Week. And that the event is called Community Day, or Community Days, because I guess they used to only have one, but now they have two. And this is an event that we have one at our Oak Brook facility on, I think it was a Tuesday. And then we have one in the park in Reading. That's a bigger event on Saturday. And that's more of an event for patients to be aware. There's like a lot of nonprofits have booths there, tables, there's activities for kids. There might be food. I know in the past we had like Rita's had a table giving out Italian ice, other things like that. Usually healthy food, trying to stick with the theme there. Mm-hmm. But that's an event that a lot of insurance companies sponsors. They get out there and talk to potential, I guess, patients. And so that's more for anybody can go to it, but that's more an event for patients and the community than maybe Picture Berks Healthy is for sponsors and supporters.
Sure. Now, in my practice, I often will work with clients, or in your case, they would be patients who are struggling with managing long-term care as they get older. Does BCHC offer any sort of long-term care or long-term care, I guess is the case would be, or do you partner with other organizations?
I don't know. I don't think we do. I mean, I know that if someone came, we have like referrals to other organizations in the area. So I know I don't just like tell people sorry. You know, I think we would try to help somebody find that care, but I don't think it's something that we offer ourselves.
You'd help them navigate to where
Right.
they needed to get to.
And same thing with anything else. Like if there's a service somebody needs that we don't offer, we refer them to Tower Health or Hershey Medical or wherever they need to go to get that service.
Right.
So
Now, how did you get into this line of work?
So yeah, my previous job I had done for 17 years. I worked in I still help. So maybe I shouldn't use the past tense quite yet, but I have a lot of time working in Christian campus ministry, kind of overseeing a group at Penn State Berks, doing like spiritual development, Bible study, coaching, all that kind of stuff with college students. But about a year ago, I felt like I was ready for a new adventure. I was kind of feeling burnout, but I wasn't really sure what I was qualified for because I had gone to seminary and I was, what kind of job can you get with that? But I had to fundraise working in campus ministry, my own salary, because Penn State Berks, where I led the ministry, they don't have paid chaplains for any religion that I know of. So I did have a little experience fundraising, asking people for money. So when I started to look for other jobs in the area, that was one thing I felt like I was a little bit qualified in. And I guess Berks Community Health Center agreed, although it is very different. There are similarities in what I'm doing now and what I was doing then. But that's really, I guess, how I got into fundraising as a job career.
Nice. Now, I call you Mr. Wyomissing because if there is a community event in Wyomissing, you can pretty much guarantee that you are there volunteering or helping in some capacity. So usually I like to spend some time talking about how you give back to the community. I mean, we can, you do so much for the community, but what would you say are your top 3 things that you do to give back to the community?
Oh, I like how that's worded. Yeah, I mean, I just always have really felt, whether it was just the kind of person I wanted to be, I'm sure my personal faith has something to do with it, but I always wanted to really be involved in the community. And I guess top 3, I mean, I guess the 3 most obvious ones, I'm very involved in my son, Eli. He's 8. He's in Cub Scouts, as you know. Your sons are also in Cub Scouts. And I just really enjoy being a part of that. I think when he was in kindergarten, they had a sign-up night. It was before the pandemic, so that was one of those weird times you look back on it where you just went to this room to learn about something, and then I feel like we don't do that as much anymore. But they said that we need somebody to lead the kindergarten group, and I always volunteer for stuff, so I was like, sure. And I'm glad I did, because it's been a really fun adventure. I mean, obviously, meeting online for 2 years with the kids was not necessarily what we had planned for. But I just think Cub Scouts is a great program, especially, I mean, I can't speak for other places, but especially in Wyomissing, there's a lot of support. And I really enjoy, obviously, working with the kids, but I think it's a great opportunity as well to get to know the other parents, whether it's parents whose kids are the same age as my kid or just other parents who are older or younger, just to get to know people and to see that it's encouraging. There's a lot of parents that really want to do good and build a good organization for the kids. So Cub Scouts is one. And I guess along the same lines, I also help coach soccer. Your daughter's on the soccer team. And it's really the same thing. Like that one, I didn't volunteer right away because I am not necessarily athletic. I didn't play soccer. But a friend of ours was coaching, and I said, hey, if you do all the coaching, I'll do all the administrative grunt work. I'll help with coaches. I'll help with practice. I'll lay down cones. I'll send emails. And of course she agreed. And then she ironically broke her ankle playing soccer, and I was kind of thrust in. I think this was the spring 2021, like the first time we had soccer again, right out of the as the pandemic was kind of winding down. So I was kind of thrown into it. Thankfully, another parent graciously helped run practices that year. And then coming into the next fall, a couple other parents stepped up. But this is a really great experience. I mean, it's the same thing. I don't feel like I know much about soccer. Whenever we have a practice where the coaches who actually know how to play soccer are not able to show up, I'm always stressed and nervous because I can't, keeping 15 almost teenage girls, in some kind of organization is not necessarily my thing. But I just really love being a part of, working with the other parents, getting to know the other parents like you who aren't, who are involved, but not necessarily coaching. And it's just a way to give back to the community. And then I guess the third thing, I'm also very involved in the library. I joined the board of directors for the Wyomissing Public Library when my kids were littler. I mentioned before that I oversaw the campus ministry there at Penn State Berks, but I also was able to balance my time essentially being a stay-at-home dad because that work was very flexible. So when my kids were in preschool or even before that, I was at home with them while my wife, she's a teacher at Wilson School District. And we would always go to the Wyomissing Library for story time or just all the time. And it was a super place for when my kids were little. So then once my kids got in elementary school, kind of outgrew story time, I saw there was an email from the board looking for people to help. And I thought, this place did so much for my kids when they were younger that I could help out with that. And I really think the library, again, I'm a big fan of books, reading. I love the library, and I'm always willing to volunteer with their activities too. So.
Yeah, it's a great library, and I think it was actually one of the last places that I took my kids to before lockdown because we would because we live in West Lawn or Wyomissing Hills, so we sort of have the West Lawn Library and the Wyomissing Library, and
Right.
we would go to both of them. But I remember being at the Wyomissing Library, in March of 2020. And we really enjoy that library. It's a beautiful building with great programs, great books. And when my wife homeschooled our kids during COVID and until November, she pretty much had a library tour where she, because she would take out 20 books from each library each week. So they all got to know her.
Nice.
But you did neglect to mention that not only are you very involved in Cub Scouts, but you are the Cub Master this year.
Right, that's true. I started off leading just Eli's age group, but I've learned that when you volunteer for one thing, it's kind of an avalanche. So then when Doug and Eli, a couple of the other older guys, their kids moved on. So then they were like, "Do you want to be in charge of the entire pack from kindergarten to fifth grade?" And yeah, so but again, it's one of those things that a lot of help and it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
It is, the Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts is a lot of fun especially for the kids, to get to be together and whatnot. So it's a great thing that you're out there doing that. Are you originally a Berks County native or are you a transplant?
I grew up in Lancaster, so I'm not a Berks County native, but it's not like I'm from far away.
Yeah. Well, and what brought you out to Berks County?
I guess work originally. After my wife and I got married, I had the opportunity, like I said, to work at Penn State Berks to oversee the Christian ministry there. So when we first got married, we lived in Royersford, and I commuted one direction, and then she commuted to the school she was teaching in. Down towards Lansdale, Souderton area. And then she got a job at a cyber school so we can move to Berks fully. And then after teaching at cyber school for a while, she got a job at Wilson. So really it was work originally. And yeah, now we're pretty settled here.
Nice. Very, very nice. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and, sure, learn more about you. What is something that you think people should be more aware of about what you do?
I guess when it comes to fundraising, and I know I've learned over the years to just be blunt and ask for money, but I also think that a lot of us, I can't speak for everybody, but when I talk to people about Berks Community Health Center, I don't just see them as someone who's going to write a check. Obviously that's part of it. That's the goal. Not gonna lie. But within
Right.
that, I do think I see it more as I want to get to know people and know people's passions are, know what people are interested in. Because I think I almost think of it as kind of like and I didn't think of this analogy myself, but the sort of the hero's journey, Obi-Wan Kenobi inviting Luke Skywalker, and every other movie does the same thing where it's people have gifts, people are passionate about things. And if I can get to know somebody and help them either see what they're passionate about or help them see how they can use their gifts, whether it's money or something else, to bless others, or just get to know people. And in the midst of that conversation, as I get to know somebody, if I find out that they're passionate about, food, about poverty, or some other issue, and they aren't interested in giving to my organization, I'm fine with that. Like, I want to help people build a better community, whatever that looks like. And I think as well, like I joined the Association of Fundraising Professionals. I've gotten to know, not very well yet, but I've gotten to know some other people who do the same work I do throughout Berks County. And like, we're not in competition with each other. Like, we all have the same goal of making Berks County a better place to live. And we all really uplift each other's organizations. So I think for me, if someone like me, whether it's myself or someone else, talks to somebody, we really want to get to know you and understand like what you're passionate about, what you want to see, your money or your gifts, how you want to see those things used, and just direct you to where that can be. And whether that's my organization or another organization, I think a world where people are more generous, however it is, and a world where people know each other more, that's the kind of world I want to live in. So that's really, I think, yeah. I hope that made sense in there somewhere.
It does, and I think you're right. A world where we're kinder and more caring about each other,
Yeah.
is a better world for all of us.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Dave, for taking the time this morning. And if any of our listeners are looking to reach out to you, what is the best way to do that?
Probably either email or Facebook Messenger, or Facebook. They can find me on Facebook. They're probably the two best ways. Yeah.
Okay. And what email address would be?
Sure. dmlhershey@gmail.com.
Are you related to the chocolate Hershey's?
It's a good question. That comes up a lot. Unfortunately, no. That would be cool if it was. But as far as I know, not, at least not any sort of close enough relation to get any benefit from that. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Dave, for being here on Not Minding My Own Business.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's great.